They didn't expect your rise. They didn't expect the ground beneath your feet to stop trembling. They didn't expect the fire inside your chest to keep burning. They didn't expect you, yes you, to stand back up after everything they did to watch you fall. But here you are. And this is the story they never thought you'd live long enough to tell. They threw you into hell, believing the flames would consume you. They whispered behind closed doors, confident that your silence meant surrender. They waited for the moment your knees would buckle, for the moment your will would finally snap, for the moment you'd stay down and prove them right. But instead, you did something they were never ready for. You kept breathing. You kept fighting. You kept rising, because somewhere in the rubble of your doubt, you found something they didn't know you had. A pulse, a spark, a reason. The story begins there, in the ashes, with nothing but a wounded heart and a stubborn refusal to die. They expected your silence, but you became thunder. They expected your weakness, but you forged it into strength. They expected you to drown in your own tears, but you learned how to breathe underwater. They thought you'd crumble the moment life stopped being soft. They thought one closed door would end you. They thought one betrayal would break you. They thought one failure would define you, but they didn't understand your kind of hunger. The hunger carved from nights where sleep never came. They didn't understand your kind of rage, the rage born from promises shattered in your hands. They didn't understand your kind of resilience, the kind only built by someone who has lost everything, yet stands anyway. And the truth? If they had seen who you were capable of becoming, if they had known the storm you were growing in secret, they would have never pushed you. They would have never doubted you. They would have never thought you would stay small. But their mistake became your beginning. You didn't rise in peace. You didn't rise in comfort. You rose in chaos, the kind that tears you apart before it puts you back together. There were nights you questioned everything. Why me? When does it get better? How do I keep going when everything hurts? But somewhere in those questions, you found answers. You learned that strength isn't built in sunlight, it's forged in storms. You learned that growth doesn't feel good, it feels like breaking. You learned that resilience is formed from every moment you whispered, "I'll try again tomorrow." You adapted, you evolved. Slowly, painfully, quietly, you became something else. Picture it. You, standing in the middle of a battlefield, bruised, bleeding, exhausted. Your fears circling you like wolves. Your doubts clawing at your ankles. Your past dragging chains behind you. And yet, you move, one step, then another, not because you're fearless, but because you refuse to die in the same place you were broken. You found strength in failure. You found wisdom in loss. You found power in being underestimated. You discovered that every scar was a story, and every story was proof you were still alive. You didn't just survive the fire, you became it. And that's when they started to panic, because suddenly you weren't the broken one anymore. Suddenly you spoke with conviction. Suddenly you walked with purpose. Suddenly the things they used to control in you didn't move you at all. And you could feel it, couldn't you? You could feel their confusion, their discomfort, their fear. They whispered, "Who do they think they are? How did they get back up? They weren't supposed to change like this. They weren't supposed to win." They started watching you like you were something dangerous, because you were. You were no longer predictable, no longer fragile, no longer seeking their approval or begging for their acceptance. You rose on your own terms, and that terrified them. Did they really think you'd stay broken? Did they really think your story would end in the places they abandoned you? Did they really think a little pain would erase your destiny? They underestimated the soul inside you, the one that refuses to give up, the one that refuses to surrender, the one that refuses to die quietly. And every time you rose, they flinched. Every time you healed, they choked. Every time you grew, they felt a fear they couldn't admit, the fear that your existence alone exposed their limits, because while you climbed through storms, they stayed exactly where they were. This is where the story shifts. This is where you stop fighting for survival and start fighting for mastery. This is where your power stops being loud and becomes unshakably quiet. Because real strength isn't proved by how hard you hit back, but by how nothing can pull you out of alignment anymore. Think of who you're becoming now: a mind like still water, calm but deep; a heart like tempered steel, soft but unbreakable; a soul like rising dawn, peaceful but unstoppable. Look at the crown forming above you, a crown built from every night you chose not to quit. Look at the fire behind your eyes, the fire they tried to extinguish. Look at the storm around your shoulders, the storm they didn't see forming when they threw you into darkness. And they notice it too. They notice the way you carry yourself now, not with arrogance, but with certainty. They notice the way you speak, not to impress, but with truth. They notice the way you move, not to be seen, but because nothing can hold you anymore. You stopped chasing them. You stopped proving yourself to them. You stopped letting their shadows dictate your sunrise. And the moment you stopped caring is the moment you became untouchable. Because here's the twist nobody ever told you. Indifference is the highest form of power. Not anger, not revenge, not loud victories, but quiet, steady, unshakable peace. You learned not to respond. You learned not to react. You learned not to give energy to people committed to misunderstanding you. And that peace, that silence, that self-control, it became your revenge. You started thriving in secret. You started healing without witnesses. You started rebuilding without applause. You started growing in places nobody thought to look. And when you finally stepped back into the world, you didn't rise as the person they hurt. You rose as the person their actions helped create. They didn't expect you to grow wings in the darkness. They didn't expect you to build an empire from nothing. They didn't expect you to create a version of yourself even you hadn't seen before, but you did, and your rise became the plot twist they never saw coming. Now, here you stand. Not broken, not searching, not waiting, but becoming. You are no longer the version of yourself that needed permission to exist. You are no longer the version that settled for crumbs. You are no longer the version that begged for love disguised as approval. You are a force, a movement, a rebirth, a realization. You are the reminder that storms don't always come to destroy you. Sometimes they come to reveal your power. And now the ground trembles beneath your steps. Now the air shifts when you enter the room. Now the world recognizes what they refuse to see. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you decide. You don't shrink, you expand. They didn't expect your rise, but your rise became inevitable the moment you chose yourself. And now they watch. From a distance they can't close. From a silence they can't escape. From an emptiness created by their own choices. Some regret, some envy, some pretend not to notice. But all of them know the truth. You won. Not because they lost, but because you refused to stop evolving. Not because you destroyed them, but because you discovered yourself. Your victory isn't loud. Your victory isn't petty. Your victory isn't about proving them wrong. Your victory is that you are no longer affected by whether they were right or wrong, and that is the highest form of freedom. So if you ever doubt yourself again, if you ever forget how far you've come, remember this. You were never meant to stay where they left you. You were never meant to die in the place of your heartbreak. You were never meant to be defined by their limitations or confined by their expectations. You were meant to rise. You were meant to break patterns, break ceilings, break versions of yourself you outgrew. You were meant to become the person your past self prayed to meet. You were meant to step into a life that once felt impossible. Your story is not a tragedy, it's a transformation. Your future is not a question, it's a declaration. And your rise, it's not over, it's just beginning. So walk forward now, head high, heart steady, soul blazing. You are not who they said you were. You are not who you were when you fell. You are who you became when you decided to rise, and they didn't expect that. But the world is about to witness it. Your rise, your power, your becoming. Remember these words every time you doubt. They didn't expect your rise, but you rose anyway. But listen, your rise isn't just a moment, it's a message. A reminder to every soul walking through their own darkness that they too can rise when everything around them falls apart. You became proof Proof that a wounded heart can still burn brighter than the sun. Proof that broken pieces can form a sharper edge. Proof that a quiet soul can become a storm the world didn't see coming. You learned something sacred on this journey, something most people never understand. Power isn't given. Power is remembered. You always had it. Life just had to strip away everything that wasn't you so you could finally see it. Think about those long nights, the ones where your chest felt heavy, your eyes felt tired, and your mind kept whispering that maybe you weren't enough. Those nights weren't your end, they were your initiation. Because strength doesn't grow under gentle skies. It grows in the thunder, it grows in the silence, it grows in the places where you stand alone and decide that giving up is no longer an option. You didn't just rise from the pain, you learned to wield it. Every tear became a weapon, every scar became armor, every betrayal became fuel, and every failure became a map leading you to a stronger version of yourself. And now you walk differently. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. Awareness of who you are, awareness of what you carry, awareness of the storms you've already survived. They can't intimidate you anymore. They can't shake you. They can't distract you with noise, opinions, or doubts, because you outgrew the version of yourself that needed their validation. You don't need them to acknowledge your growth. You don't need them to celebrate your wins. You don't need them to recognize your worth. You know who you are, and that terrifies them more than anything else. They see you rising again and again despite everything, and deep inside they wonder, how did they survive what should have destroyed them? How did they rise after the fall? How are they still standing when we counted them out? They don't understand that you stopped living for applause. You started living for purpose. You stopped waiting for permission. You started taking control. You stopped asking, why me? You started saying, try me. You transformed, not out of ego, but out of necessity. You had to become the strongest version of yourself because the weaker version couldn't survive the battles ahead. And now, look at you, unshaken, unbroken, unstoppable. Your rise isn't loud, it's legendary. Your rise isn't a moment, it's a movement. Your rise isn't only yours, it's a signal to every soul still trapped in their shadows that their dawn is coming. And when they look at you now, they see something they never expected. A warrior, a flame, a force. A reminder that destiny bends for those who refuse to kneel. So take another step. Lift your head higher. Let the world witness what resilience looks like. Let them watch, helpless, as you rise beyond the limits they placed on your name. Because the truth remains the same. They didn't expect your rise. But your rise is only getting started.